I used to think family meant support, respect, and unconditional love, but those illusions shattered the day my parents looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're only good for babysitting your sister's kids." That sentence wasn't just a careless remark. It was a confirmation of everything they'd made me feel for years, that I was the invisible daughter, the backup, the unpaid help, the one they could rely on when their golden child, my sister Melanie, needed a break. I was never the daughter who got praise or celebration. I was the errand girl in the family photo. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. It started when Melanie had her first child at 22. She was overwhelmed, and our parents, instead of stepping up like supportive grandparents, turned to me. "Just help her out for a while," Mom said sweetly. "You've always been so good with kids." That while turned into weekends. Weekends turned into entire summers. I missed job interviews, social events, even a trip abroad because Melanie really needed a break, and Mom said I owed it to the family. At first, I said yes because I loved my niece and nephew, but love doesn't mean being taken advantage of. And they took and took and took. I once tried to set boundaries. I told them I was applying for graduate school and wouldn't be able to babysit anymore. Dad scoffed. "Graduate school? You? Let's not kid ourselves. You're not exactly cut out for more stress. Just stick to what you're good at, helping your sister." That cut deeper than anything. I wasn't asking for applause. I was asking to be seen as more than a babysitter, a burden, a body to dump responsibility on, but all I got in return was shame for wanting a life of my own. Then came the tipping point. Melanie had her third child and went on another self-care retreat. My parents showed up at my door with all 3 kids in tow. No notice, no request. Just an entitled, "We'll be back Sunday, make sure they brush their teeth." And then they were gone. No diapers, no formula, no backup plan. I canceled an important job interview. Again. That night, as I held a crying baby and tried to get the other 2 to sleep in my tiny 1-bedroom apartment, I broke down. It wasn't the first time I cried over how my family treated me, but it was the first time I cried angrily. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't invisible. I was tired. Tired of being used, dismissed, and emotionally stomped on. That night, I opened a spreadsheet and began calculating every hour I had babysat over the past 7 years. I dug up text messages, emails, timestamps from security cams, and old planner notes. By the time I was done, the number at the bottom of the sheet read $74,680, and I wasn't about to let it slide. I sent a formal invoice to my parents and my sister. I itemized it by year, by child, by duty. Feeding, bathing, overnight stays, pickups from school. I attached copies of messages where they demanded my time. I included links to fair nanny wages in our area. And then I wrote a single line in bold at the bottom, "Payment due in 30 days. The next morning, my phone lit up with furious calls. "Is this a joke? You're doing this to your own family? How dare you treat us like clients?" But I ignored every call. Because for the first time in years, I was no longer playing their unpaid role. I was drawing the line. And they didn't know it yet, but I had already contacted a lawyer. The silence didn't last long. 3 days after I sent the invoice, my parents showed up at my apartment uninvited. I heard the knock, the same aggressive rhythm Dad used when I was younger and late to open the door. I didn't move. I watched them through the peephole. My mother wore her classic fake concern face, lips pursed, eyes scanning like she was walking into enemy territory. Dad looked angry, his nostrils flaring, lips twitching as if preparing one of his classic lectures. I let them knock for 8 minutes, then I texted, "Any discussions moving forward should be handled through legal communication. Thank you." They stopped knocking. I had hired a lawyer 2 days earlier, a friend of a friend, pro bono at first, because even she was horrified by the documentation. She told me I had a real case, that even though we were family, the sheer consistency of unpaid labor, especially when I'd made sacrifices affecting my income and life plans, could be classified under implied contract. She helped me draft a formal letter of intent to file a claim in small claims court. I didn't care if I didn't win every cent. What I wanted was accountability. respect, recognition. That night, Melanie called me. "You're really doing this? To Mom? To me?" "You mean the woman who laughed when Dad said I'd never amount to anything? The sister who dumped her kids on me without a diaper bag while she flew to Cabo for a chakra cleanse?" Melanie hissed through the phone. "We're family. Family helps each other. Number family doesn't exploit someone for a decade, then shame them when they say enough." She hung up. 2 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail, a petty attempt from their side to resolve the issue internally. They offered me $5,000 if I agreed to drop everything. $5,000. For 7 years of unpaid childcare, missed jobs, missed life. I laughed, then replied with my lawyer's name, number, and the updated invoice now sitting at $75,120, with late fees. That's when things turned uglier. I began receiving messages from extended family. Aunt Carla said I was embarrassing the family. Cousin Mark said, "You're not a real mom. You don't know how hard it is." Someone even posted on Facebook, "It's shameful when people treat their own blood like clients. What happened to love?" I didn't respond. I just kept forwarding everything to my lawyer, building my case, piece by piece. They wanted war? They'd get it, in court, with evidence, contracts, timestamps, and silence. Then my parents made one final desperate move. They tried to smear my mental health. They contacted the HR department at the job I had just landed, claiming I was emotionally unstable and vindictive. Luckily, I had already informed HR of the situation, and my manager was incredibly supportive. But that was it. That was the last straw. They weren't just trying to avoid accountability anymore. They were actively trying to destroy me. I instructed my lawyer to move forward with the lawsuit. We filed. My parents were served court documents 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Melanie was listed as a witness. The look on their faces must have been priceless when they realized I wasn't bluffing. During those final weeks before the hearing, I started to feel something new. Power. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing this to rewrite the narrative they had shoved me into my entire life. I was done being the one who sacrificed while they praised Melanie for breathing. I was done being called dramatic, lazy, emotional, ungrateful. I was done being the family doormat. They had called me a babysitter. Now they were about to face the bill for all those years they used me like one. The courtroom was smaller than I imagined, not the grand, echoing halls from the movies, just a modest beige room with 2 bright lights and stiff chairs. But I didn't need grandeur. I needed truth. I sat across from my parents at the plaintiff's table. My lawyer, Dana, organized the folders with a calm precision. My parents avoided eye contact. My father looked ready to explode. My mother clutched her handbag like it contained salvation. And Melanie? She was nowhere to be seen. Coward, I thought. The judge entered, and the bailiff called the room to order. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with years of pent-up humiliation finally turning into clarity. I wasn't here to beg. I was here to testify. The first few minutes were procedural. Names, background, introductions. Then Dana rose. "Your Honor, we are here to present a civil claim for the unpaid caregiving services provided by the plaintiff to the defendants over a period of 7 years. We contend this labor was rendered under an implied contract based on repeated verbal assurances and expectations, and that it resulted in measurable financial loss, emotional distress, and career setbacks for the plaintiff." My father scoffed. The judge glanced at him sharply. "Sir, you'll have your turn." And I finally took the stand. I told the court everything, how I had put my own career on pause to be their default childcare, how I had babysat Melanie's children while she partied, traveled, and got her nails done, how my parents would call me selfish if I said I had plans, or tired if I asked for even a day off. I spoke of the days I went to work exhausted, the promotions I missed, the friendships I lost, the therapy I couldn't afford, because I was too busy being their unpaid help. I showed text messages, calendar records, even voice notes my mother left me. I presented the breakdown of hours and the conservative $15 per hour estimate we used to build the $75,000 invoice. Dana handed out binders. My parents fumbled through them, red-faced. When my father was called to respond, he stood like a man who had rehearsed his speech. "She's our daughter. This is what family does. She never complained before. And besides," he paused, looking directly at me, "she was never really going anywhere in life. She had time." That one sentence. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge blinked. I saw Dana's jaw tighten. She didn't even object. She let that sentence hang in the air like poison gas, because it was all the jury needed to hear. Later, they called Melanie as a remote witness. She showed up on video, looking irritated, half-done makeup, probably dragged out of brunch. "She's exaggerating," she said. "I mean, yes, she helped out, but she never asked for money. And we're sisters. That's just what sisters do." Dana leaned forward. "Ms. Benson, do you recall telling your sister she couldn't attend a job interview because you had a hair appointment and needed her to watch the kids?" Melanie rolled her eyes. "That was one time. We have documentation of 46 such requests, one time a week, for nearly a year." Melanie blinked. The rest of the trial blurred. Cross-examinations, testimonies from old colleagues who confirmed I turned down work, text records where my father called me useless unless you're babysitting. All of it carefully, calmly laid out. The judge took a recess. I sat outside the courtroom staring at the vending machine when I heard footsteps. I turned. It was my mother. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked small. "I didn't know it got this bad," she said quietly. "I thought you liked helping. You never said—" "I did say," I interrupted. "You just never listened. You assumed I was there to serve you." She looked down at her shoes. "You were our rock," she whispered. "We leaned on you. Too much." I didn't reply. I walked away. Back in the courtroom, the judge returned with the verdict. In reviewing the evidence and testimonies provided, this court acknowledges the plaintiff's substantial and unpaid labor rendered under conditions resembling a familial implied contract. The court awards the plaintiff $58,000 in damages. Not the full amount, but enough. Enough to scream that my work had value. Enough to make them realize I wouldn't be quiet anymore. My parents didn't look at me as I walked out. Melanie shut her laptop mid-call. And I smiled. I used part of the money to invest in a small business, a virtual assistant agency I'd dreamed about for years. The rest went into savings and a vacation. My phone finally was quiet. Months later, I received a text from Melanie. "Can you please help out next weekend? Emergency." I replied with 2 words, invoice attached, because I wasn't their babysitter anymore. I was a businesswoman, a woman with a voice, and they would never silence or devalue me again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.